So thank you to all the people who are downloading this, even if you're not listening, like my wife. This segment brought to you by our wives. So let's begin the podcast. Uh, uh, uh,
I feel like we
I
should have some like massive music right now. Like it finally happened.
oh,
The Andy,
there
the
will
Andy
be
has
massive
seen
music.
Doctor Who.
There will be massive music.
All right,
We're going to start off. You will have just heard the classic line from the 1995 cult classic Empire Records, with the character of Lucas saying, "In the immortal words of the Doors, the time to hesitate is through."
cool.
I would like to wish everyone a happy Hooniversary. I was unaware that this last week, on March 26th, was the 10th anniversary of when Doctor Who first started airing in Britain. And as soon as I found that out, I said, the time to hesitate is through. And it's time to do this. It was really funny because I'd said on the podcast last week, this is definite. It's going to happen at the 1st of April. And I had a whole plan, and that plan just got shot to hell. And I said, nope, time to actually jump in.
Just watch. You know what? You know what's cool? Every once in a while, something will pop up in my head, and I just have to go to the internet and figure stuff out. I was watching Cartoon with Julia, and I heard a voice that I could have sworn was Brian Blessed, right? Because of course, Brian Blessed's voice, you can tell who he is, but I wasn't too sure, so I went to IMDb and I checked it out, and sure enough, it was his voice. But then I saw a quote that's attributed to him. In 1995, he said that Doctor Who was one of the greatest things of English television, and that he hoped it would be back someday. So it's kind of cool that 20 years after he said that, it came back.
Oh,
Or
that's
20 years, what?
adorable.
10 years.
Oh,
Yeah.
that's nice. 20 years. It only took that long. It's funny because having not seen any of Doctor Who the first most of the first 50 years, and only having seen two episodes of the last 10 years, I could agree that maybe it was one of the best things of British television. What else is it competing with? There's Monty Python, there's Keeping Up Appearances, Faulty Towers.
Fawlty Towers would definitely be it. I don't know about keeping up appearances.
Yeah, I like that. There's a lot of great British TV that I like, but
Fab,
definitely.
AFAB, definitely.
Oh,
It's up there with
AbFab,
AFAB, right?
absolutely fabulous, absolutely. Um, I'm trying to. Yeah, Red Dwarf, Blackadder. There's
Blackadder,
some of that. Yeah. So
The Blue
there,
Line. It's really up there. I would say it's in the top three of all time for UK shows.
the only thing I have to say is that in the last 10 years, British television has really brought it.
Yes.
And I think that in many ways, the British model of television is far superior to our American model. And I look at shows that are coming out of Britain like Luther,
Oh
and
God, Luther's fantastic.
yeah, the first three seasons of Robin Hood, which were great, Being Human, and they just there's something about doing a show and saying we're going to do 8 episodes, 6 episodes, 10 episodes, and it's going to be a complete story arc, and that's what you're getting, and it's all going to air, and this is when it's going to air, and that's it. And when it's done, we'll decide if there's going to be another season. Compared to the American model of, well, NBC is going to make a Constantine show, but it's going to be on Friday night at 9 o'clock, and so maybe nobody's going to watch it. So do I get invested in this show where I really like the source material, or do I wait around and just let my heart get broken when it eventually gets canceled? Well, it's not looking like it's going to get canceled, so I'm going to dive in, but it's not likely to get renewed, so do I keep watching? It would just be so much better if our TV networks would just have the cojones to go ahead and stand by their
Right.
programming and say, this is going to be around for an entire season. Or you're going to get 6 episodes of this and that's it. Do an Agent Carter. Agent Carter is the perfect example.
Right. And it may or may not come back, but at least what we had was awesome. And I think we touched about this a couple of episodes ago, but I remember reading an interview with the the one who runs Fox. I forget his name, and he said that he actually wants to adopt the UK model because he's tired of playing the Nielsen ratings games because they're not all dependable at all. So
Right.
you'll get like 3 weeks of solid numbers, and then you commit to a season and a half, and then the numbers drop. So the networks have to move the show to another time to give another show a shot. And he got tired of all this, moving back and forth. What he was talking about was doing what the UK does is present a show with a story, give it a season, and you'll measure out the metrics at the end of the year. See what it's like. See if people are clamoring for more. If they are, then move on for another season. But in the meantime, throw some other shows in.
Yep.
Shorten the seasons, shorten the stories, give people what they want. And that way you'll have this continual process of new shows coming in and in. But he said it was going to be very hard to break away from that because the networks are so used to, having a show for 3, 5 seasons and banking on that. Just imagine CBS if they had to say, "You'll have a Big Bang Theory just for this season, and we'll think about it at the end of the year if we're going to bring it back." It won't work for them because that's their cash cow.
Yeah.
They want to contract their actors for 5, 6 years, and good for them because it worked for this show, but it doesn't always work
Yeah.
in a lot of other shows.
I think there's certain shows where it makes sense to do that. Big Bang Theory, they just signed a huge contract to keep that around for another 3 or 4 seasons,
Right.
and those actors need that, or else they're in demand that they would go find other projects.
Yeah, but
So,
if there was the model, the UK model, where new shows were constantly coming up, those actors would know that there's jobs available for them.
mhm,
But all the other networks are tied up with these long-term shows that they kind of have to fight for that long contract because then there's no job. You see, in the UK, you can show up in a couple of episodes of Orphan Black, and then you don't have to worry because you can make it in Almost Human, or you can make it in whatever other show they have, MI5 or MI6. There's going to be opportunities for you to have a job because that's the way it works. The shows are in constant cycles. But here in the U.S., everything is so static that
yep.
they have to fight for these long-term contracts.
Yeah, I look at a show that it was called Spooks in
Right.
the UK, but MI5
Five over here.
here, and that show's cast was constantly changing. It was like Law and Order here, and it was great. And then Richard Armitage shows up in season 5 or 6, and those episodes just got amazing. You look at all of the people who came through MI5. David Oyelowo was amazing. Now, why can't I remember his name? He played Tom in the first few
Uh,
seasons,
the
and he was
Prejudice guy. Uh,
yeah, yeah,
okay, Angus McFadden.
yeah. So that show is great, and it was great to be able to have a single concept and people kind of cycling in and out of it. I really like that model, and I think with the new advent of streaming and binge watching and people wanting to watch an entire season of something at a time or an entire story arc at one time or spaced out over a week or so, that is going to become more and more profitable for these networks. It makes sense for Fox to bank a show and say we're going to do 6 episodes here, we're going to do 6 episodes from March through June, and then we're going to do 6 episodes in November and December, and that's going to be season 1, and you're definitely getting those, but that's going to be when it's out, and you can watch all of it. And I think that is far better than, well, we're going to commit to 6 episodes up front and we'll see how it does, and maybe it'll get 22 episodes this season, maybe it
Right.
won't. They've kind of done that with Sleepy Hollow, and
Right.
it has somewhat worked with Sleepy Hollow. It has somewhat not. I feel like Sleepy Hollow's been a little bit uneven. I
Like
also
it,
think it's been bad ever since they killed off oh, what's his name?
Morgoth or what's his name? The evil devil dude. I forget his.
Yeah, yeah. But they also killed off the the Seven Up guy.
Seven Up guy.
Why am I? Why so many years later? Why am I still
Oh,
thinking of him
what's
as?
his name? Irving, Captain Irving, or Chief
Yeah,
Irving.
yeah,
Oh, he came back though.
yeah. I know he came back, but I feel like that was a great that was a great story arc, and uh, I don't know it after he left. Orlando Jones.
Orlando Jones,
Orlando
yeah.
Jones. Why am I forgetting Orlando Jones?
But there's the whole thing with the angel that came in now,
Hmm.
and the angel's orders to wipe out humanity. I kind of like that. I'm also a Supernatural fan, so that kind of reminds me of Supernatural.
Yeah, that was my only problem is it felt really derivative. It's really funny
Fair.
to see a lot of this and see how it all feels very derivative now that there isn't a whole lot of ground that Supernatural and Buffy didn't cover. They're just there's not a whole lot or X Files. So, and we'll
That's
get
fair.
to X Files. We're
Yeah,
gonna get to
we'll
X
talk about
Files.
that later.
But let's get back to talking about Doctor Who since we don't want to offend other people who actually want to listen to us talking about Doctor Who. So I watched the first two episodes. I watched Rose and The End of the World, and overall I had a great time. You go back and follow me on Twitter at WhoVirgin, and you can read all of my tweets as I was watching them. I was very entertained, and this is definitely a show that has my interest, despite I can see how people would be like, "Oh, these are silly episodes,"
Right.
but there's something here that I'm interested in. And let me tell you specifically what caught the most of my attention in the very first episode with Rose is near the climax when they're fighting the plastic monster and the doctor is yelling at it and he's like, I couldn't save your planet. I couldn't save a lot of planets. I'm sorry. I wanted to. And it's like, whoa, there's some backstory here.
Right.
He's carrying around a lot of guilt. He's carrying around a lot of self doubt. It sounds like, and there's a lot more there. Even though this was a silly episode about mannequins coming to life and
Right.
like strangling people, so uh, that was for me the thing that really sold me. I was okay with it up to that point, but that got me. I'm like, okay, I'm in.
Yeah, you're gonna get the bigger picture once you get to name of the doctor and all that stuff. You're gonna have to go through a lot of seasons, and you'll be getting bit by bit as to what happened right before the Rose episode. But he's dealing with the consequences of his actions,
Yeah.
and the consequences of his actions are huge. It's a lot like the question I posed to you the last episode about, what would you do if you could guarantee peace by doing this thing that's so horrible.
Hmm.
And he's having to deal with that consequence. And as this season goes on, the question about whether he did the right thing or not gets to get heavier on him, especially at the very end. And it's something that continues to gradually creep into him, and it becomes a huge burden. Like, did I do the right thing? I don't think I did. Like, I don't care if I saved all these millions of people in the universe. I don't think I did the right thing.
Hmm.
Uh,
The other thing that really made me like this episode is I always like it when especially a sci-fi show makes me think outside the boundaries of it. And the first thing that I thought was, oh my gosh, if this is going to make everything that's plastic come alive on our entire planet, there's a giant floating trash pile the size of Texas in the Pacific. If that thing comes alive, that would be the scariest thing ever, made up of plastic bags and water bottles and the plastic rings from soda cans. Like, just imagine a giant sea kraken monster made up of gross, semi-decomposing plastic. I was like,
yeah,
ugh, the
animating plastic
scariest
would
thing
not
ever.
be good for us. Yeah.
No, it would not.
Not at all.
There were other things that came into my mind that would not be good. But since we're trying to keep the podcast mostly PG rated, I will not go into talking about
I know where
those
you're going.
plastic
Yeah,
things
that's kind of
and
disgusting.
how scary that would be to be attacked by those things. So, but mannequins, scary enough. So I liked it. Now, Billie Piper, um, I do not know her outside of this show, but I know that she had a music career in the UK.
Yes.
Was this was this something that I should know as an American, or was
No.
she like a okay?
No. It caused a big stir in the UK because most of the companions that the Doctor had before
Hmm.
were unknown actors or low-level actors, but they were actors. And a lot of people were offended that here's this pop queen who had a few hits, and she's in Doctor Who, and what gives her the right, and all this other crap. The other thing that was different from the very first episode was that most episodes of yesteryear of Doctor Who, they usually would end in a cliffhanger that would get resolved the following week,
Hmm.
midway through, and then that episode ended in a cliffhanger. So people were annoyed that there was a problem and it was solved by the time the episode was over. Like, this is so not Doctor Who. There were a lot of people talking trash about it because I guess the purist. I guess you could compare them to the original trilogy Star Wars fans versus the prequel trilogy Star Wars fans.
Hmm.
That original trilogy Star Wars fans want everything exactly as it was before, or if not, it's not real Star Wars. So the same thing happened with Doctor Who. I mean, I didn't care because we had it back and I actually liked it and I was having fun with it. But there was a large group of people that were complaining about Billy Piper and no cliffhanger. And there's this huge discussion about the sonic screwdriver now because
Yeah.
the sonic screwdriver is now pretty much used to get the Doctor out of trouble. Before it wasn't, so people are pissed off at that. Jesus Christ, man, fanboys are never happy. That's what it comes down to.
No, no, there's always going to be. You could make. I mean, I remember when Avengers came out and people were complaining, and I'm like, this is the most damn perfect movie
Yes.
you are going to see. Shut up, eat your popcorn, drink your soda,
Right.
and enjoy the heck out of this because it is awesome. Shut
Steve
up.
Rogers is not blonde, or Heimdall is black, or Falcon doesn't have his wings. Like, shut up
No,
already.
I'm like seriously doing a Philip Seymour Hoffman and Punch Drunk Love with these people. Like, shut up, shut up, shut up, shut. So yeah,
I was
no,
kind of scared that you're gonna say
fanboys.
that you just sharded, but I'm glad you
No,
did.
no, no. No, not a concern. So I want to go back though, because cliffhangers and sonic screwdrivers, cliffhangers I always felt were kind of dumb and lame. Like I always think back to like the 1960s Batman, which I
Yeah,
grew up watching because it was in syndication all the time, and it's
yeah.
like, how will the dynamic duo escape
Same
the
bad
Joker's
time,
clutches?
same bad channel.
And I'm like, this is so lame because you know they're going to get out of it. So why are you making me wait a week to see what happens? Or I guess that show was on every day, but still, why are you making me wait to see this? And there are a lot of two-part episodes of things like Star Trek or man, the best of both worlds, part one, where Picard gets taken by the Borg,
Mm,
and we had to wait like 4 months to find out what happened. I was like,
it's
no,
annoying.
whoa, no, 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 don't do that.
Yeah, it's annoying.
So I I always felt a cliffhanger was a kind of cheap way to build audience participation. I think a show should stand or fall on its own, regardless of, oh, well, I have to see how they got out of that one. Uh, it just that's how I want my TV shows anyway. So I'm glad they gave up that convention because I don't know I would if I would have enjoyed it as much. Although binge watching it and being able to stream it, it wouldn't have
It
mattered
wouldn't
because
be a problem. Yeah.
I could just watch the next episode. So the sonic screwdriver, what is it and how does it work? Because it kind of seemed like it can do anything.
It's become that sort of. The sonic screwdriver gives vibrations or pulses, supersonic pulses, to either break things open or fuse things together. So that's what it was supposed to do. But now it can record data, turn things on and off, and so on and so on. And the way I approach it is that this man has been alive for 1,000 years, so he's tinkered. All right.
Hmm.
So it started off as a simple thing, and over the years he's tinkered with it, and it's become something so much better.
Well,
It's really not difficult.
let's think about how technology changed between the early 90s and 2005. I mean, in the early 90s, we were walking around with Walkman.
Right.
And by 2005, we had iPods. And which the iPod made an appearance in the the second episode, which was hilarious.
Yeah.
But or even going back, how was the sonic screwdriver part of the original show in the
Oh
60s
yeah.
as well?
Mhm.
So think about how much technology has changed since the 60s.
Right.
I would hope that in all of these years there would be improvements to it. I don't mind it being a kind of ubiquitous universal remote. I just don't understand what it is other than oh, it can do these things. So I don't know.
It,
It's
it can't
interesting.
fire anything. It's not like a defensive weapon.
Hmm.
But yeah, just think about it as a universal remote, and that'll get you through it.
Okay, that will help.
Right.
So I liked the episode Rose. I kind of like Rose. She not having any baggage of knowing that she's a pop star.
Right.
Uh, she's a little bit thick, which I kind of like. So um, that's that's cool. But let's go on to the second episodes. And I know you mentioned Cassandra first,
Always
and
surprises me.
yeah, and how she was kind of the big bad. So first, I want to ask how how can she be a big bad if she's dead? Is she does she regenerate, or is it her previous self
Well,
is
no,
also a
she
villain?
not the big bad, but she's the bad of the episode.
Oh, okay.
She
Okay.
put things in motion. Uh,
Okay. So I just
no,
misunderstood what you said
no, no,
before.
no. The big bad is. I don't want to ruin that for you, uh,
Okay.
because that was a big moment for Whovians.
Okay. Well, cool. Well, then that's interesting. That was very funny. My reaction to this, and you can go back and read my tweets again, was I they started playing Tainted Love, and I'm like, okay, Doctor Who, you had me at Tainted Love.
You're right.
You had you had me at Tainted Love. Do 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 do.
Sometimes it's
I
like the
love that song
Coneheads
so much. Yeah. Oh my gosh, I love that episode so much. Or I love that song so much.
yeah.
But then they lost me when they started playing Britney Spears' Toxic, which is one of those songs that I have the biggest love-hate relationship with. I
Oh
can't
no,
decide.
dude. It has to be Oops, I Did It Again.
No, yeah, see, here's the thing. I kind of like Oops, I Did It Again, and
Oh,
I
what's
kind of
wrong with you?
like I kind of I told you when we were talking about
Oh,
uh,
hold on. Got
yeah,
my daughter.
okay.
Sorry about that. I have the in-laws, so I got to take
No
care of my
worries.
kid, and
Hey,
she's a little under the weather.
oh, poor thing. That's not a problem if we have to. I mean, it's just a click of an edit and
Oh, cool.
take it out.
All right,
So, so it's
Britney
not.
Spears.
So, yeah. Here's the thing. I have a. Okay, let me start over. What's that called? Where you like something, but it's a guilty pleasure. Okay.
Oh,
No.
okay.
Okay, so I mentioned before I have a guilty pleasure of pop music, specifically boy bands and girl bands. So I kind of like Oops, I Did It Again. I kind of like what's the other one that's like Oops, I Did It Again, but it's uh,
I dislike
she
it so much that
I I don't know. There's another one. It's they're all terrible. I absolutely agree that it's terrible, terrible, quote unquote, air quote music, but I love it and I can't help singing along with it when it's on when it when it shows up on my iPod playlist. So
you
uh,
actually have it
yeah,
on your iPod.
yeah, oh, definitely, definitely. I have a ton of Britney Spears and
Oh, why?
NSYNC and Christina Aguilera and Mandy Moore. Oh, I actually genuinely like even not guilty pleasure Mandy Moore. She's adorable.
I like her acting. Music.
So Backstreet Boys. So yeah,
I'll give
I
you that.
I love all of this terrible music. Now, Toxic though is a it's such a terrible song that I still hate it, but it's one of those earworms and it gets in your head and you can't get it out. So ever since I heard that, Toxic has been in my head and it's been battling it out with two of my other most love-hated songs ever. And one is my own fault, and it's because on the podcast last week we had that that recording of Peter Serafinowicz talking about the Dalek relaxation tape,
Right.
and his introduction is the Doobie Brothers' "What a Fool Believes," and I love hate that song more than anything. So
I
I'm
like
sorry to have I can't stand Michael McDonald. Michael McDonald is my mortal enemy. No, seriously, like, I can't, because he took a great band and he destroyed it. He absolutely destroyed Michael McDonald.
you,
Yeah,
you
I
can't
hate
blame
you.
him for that. Everybody
Yes, I
loves him.
can.
And we
Oh,
wouldn't have had those Family Guy episodes where he comes out and
he came from somewhere back in a long ago. Never bother from. Oh man, I hate Michael McDonald so much. But it gets in my head and I can't get it out. And sometimes it comes on and it just got to sing along. What a fool believes.
yeah,
Oh man, it's
I'm okay
awful.
with it. I
And
can't stand
and
Katrina the Waves.
yeah.
Oh God, I want to murder people when I hear that walking. Jeez, nothing makes me want to murder people more than that song.
Oh really? I am
That
somewhat ambivalent about that song. I'm like, it's not terrible. I don't hate it.
no,
I don't
no,
love it. I'm walking on sun. And then
no.
the newest one of 2015 is stupid Ariana Grande. And I blame my children because I got one less problem without you. I got one less problem. No, I hate
No,
you so much. And
no.
yet I love you and I can't help but listen to you. So those three songs have been battling it out in my head as earworms of the week. So thank you to Doctor Who for creating the battle royale of terrible, awesome songs in my head, songs that I love hate so much. I think in the entire world right now, those are my three biggest love hate songs that I just yeah I love them and I hate them and I love to hate them and I hate to love them. So
Noted.
yeah, but the rest of the episode, um, I saw the face of Bo. And you mentioned that Captain Jack is the
Connect.
face of Bo or is a connection to that, and I'm like, oh, that's a giant floating head. That's cool. That That's John Barrowman or something.
It's God, I can't even remember if it's explicitly said that it's him or that it's going to be him. But yeah, yeah,
And I'm like, oh, that's interesting. I thought the whole idea of what happened to the Earth and where everything was, I like that they reshaped the tectonic plates to make Earth classic. I thought
yes,
that was very funny. I like that, and I liked the despite Cassandra being silly and cartoonish, the idea that, oh, I'm going to get all of these people together and murder them and profit off of their death, like that's a very Lex Luthor type plot.
yes, it is
And
exactly.
so I respect that even if she is a giant stretched piece of
Yeah.
skin. That
Here's the other thing: the price of immortality.
mhm.
And this is something that Captain Jack is slowly going to find out. And when you get to watch Torchwood, you'll see why. Um, it's not really what it's cut out to be. I mean, you think about immortality and you think you're going to have this grand old time, you'll live forever, you'll see everything happen. But there is a price to that. For Cassandra, she's just a stretched out piece of skin now
Mhm.
who is freaking evil. So all these years that she has lived, for what? It's been for naught. Same thing with the Doctor. He's been around for 1,000 years, and what exactly has he saved a lot of people, saved a lot of races, but at what price and what good did it do? Because that's a reoccurring theme with the Doctor. He'll save the day and obviously change the course of history, and then he'll have to go back and fix what he fixed. And the question is this all worth it? Like, why keep doing this? You know? And the other thing that I like about that episode, where he says, "Don't worry, humanity survives. This is going to be the fourth great age of humanity. So even though Earth is destroyed, our race goes on." It fills you with kind of hope that humanity would figure out how to get their crap together and move out by interstellar travel and you know um, find new planets to habitate. Uh, but do we still are we still human? These are all questions that are going to be more prevalent as the season goes on, and I kind of wish you had seen more than two episodes.
Yeah, well, I'll get to more of them. I'm looking forward to these next few episodes. I specifically want to make it to the Dalek episode because I did not know this. The last Dalek is in a basement in Salt Lake City. Is that
Yes,
true?
yes, yes.
I have
What
to see this,
what'd you do then?
especially.
I wanted that to be a complete surprise.
Oh, no, I'm sorry. I read through just like quick things to see what was
Stop
coming up.
it! Stop it!
No, I'm not. I'm trying not to look at spoilers. I'm looking at episode descriptions and what's going on. And I said, "Oh, there's a Dalek episode coming up. Cool. Well, let's see what that's about." Salt Lake City.
Yeah.
That I now I wish I had an occasion to pop into to Salt Lake and watch this with all my big shiny robot friends and enjoy it. And we could sit there and talk about how the last Dalek was there in 2005.
Right.
So in 2005, and here we are 10 years later.
10 years
Anyway,
later.
but I'm looking forward to it. I just didn't have time to go beyond those first two episodes, but hopefully this week I'll be able to get three or four more in because I really want to get to that Dalek episode, and we'll see what goes from there. But hey, we actually I the point is I actually watched Doctor Who and I enjoyed it, and I'm going to watch more of it, and I think that is the most important thing.
It gets better. The episodes get better. The stories get stronger. And then by the time you know it, you're done with Christopher Eccleston, and then the stories just get really really good after that production value picks up, culminating to what we have now. But here's another thing about how he constantly has to go to Earth because everything happens on Earth. Um, and I was thinking about this a couple of days ago. Like, isn't that kind of conceited of us to think that everything has to go through us? Like
Yeah.
all of Marvel's big plot lines have to do with Earth being at the crossroads of everything. Even with DC's multiverse comics, everything is because of Earth. Um, is that conceited of us? I mean,
I don't think it's conceited so much as, well, maybe it is a little bit conceited, but it's also the only frame of reference that we have until we encounter other alien species, until we are on other planets and feel comfortable with them, and that is a normal frame of reference for us. Earth is always going to be the key. It's the planet that we live on. It's the only planet that we live on. So I think maybe there's something in our DNA, our cultural DNA, that goes back to the ideas of a heliocentric universe, or excuse me, the opposite of a heliocentric
right.
universe, a geocentric universe, where the sun revolves around the Earth, and we're at the center of the galaxy because God made us special, and that's the way it is. So I think there's something in there, but I don't think there's. I think it would be very hard to make a relatable show where Earth was somehow not important because we all live on the Earth. Uh, the first thing that comes to my mind though is Firefly, and Earth got used up, and there is no
Right.
more Earth,
There's more.
and people are off on other planets. So maybe that's not true. But to my mind, Joss Whedon is the only person who has ever successfully made that happen.
Well, Star Trek, you have Planet Vulcan. They're the ones who brought humanity into interstellar travel. So why is the Federation based on Earth instead of Vulcan, who are light years ahead of humanity in terms of science and civilization? So why did the Federation have to be based on Earth? You know what I'm saying? Um, and with Doctor Who, we know there's hundreds of thousands of species out there, and they name drop planets. Why don't we concentrate on going to other planets? I mean, why is Earth so special? I'm not really complaining. I was just thinking, that's kind of conceited of
Musing
us.
about it. Yeah. No, I think that's, maybe 100,000 years in the future, humanity will look back on our culture at this time and see how primitive that was, and how non cosmopolitan in the universal sense it was. But for now, I just don't know that we're ready to think of an expanded universe more than things being very Earth based. Oh, wait a minute. I'm totally eating my words here. There's no Earth in Star Wars.
Well,
The
that's Star Wars.
single the single the single biggest fantasy sci-fi franchise in the history of the world, and there's no Earth. So I so good on George Lucas and good on Joss Whedon for having things that are completely non-geocentric, but it's it's often a tougher frame of reference, I think, and it's harder to pull off.
Yeah, yeah, and but I think that collective point of view is what's keeping us from moving forward as a species. And that's why we have so much internal conflict because we think we're the best thing out there. That Earth is number one, rah rah rah, and that's why people fight over little pieces of stupid land and kill each other over it. I mean, who's to say that other planets aren't suffering the same problem?
Yeah.
But if we all could just chill, man, and realize that there's so much more out there, we should try to be getting to that someplace, and things would be so much different here on Earth. and
Yeah.
realize we're really not that important in the great scheme of things.
Well, we all want to feel like we're important, and that's
Yeah,
the sad
yeah,
nature of humanity. We all want to feel that we're special and that we're unique, and in some ways we are. And I think that Doctor Who speaks to some of that, of
you're right.
how important one individual is, and and things like that. But it's uh it's someplace I'd like to go, and I hope that humanity eventually makes it there. Uh, so let's take a little break for a couple of commercials, and we'll be back with other sponsors, and we'll talk about movies and TV and other news.
Cool.
Yeah,
Who's
cool.
the
So
first sponsor?
probably well, of the commercials we'll play, it'll probably still be. I need to get Big Shiny Robot and Entertainment is Dead to send me their promos, because they're like, oh yeah, we'll send them to you. But I keep just running the Full of Sith uh, uh, and Hello Sweetie podcast ones. Is that a reference that Hello Sweetie?
Yes.
Okay, because they're like, oh, it's our podcast is a Doctor Who reference, and I'm like,
Yes, it
all right,
is.
okay.
When
So
she shows up, you're gonna smile, and when
okay,
she says that, you're gonna smile.
okay. Well, then I'll be very happy, and I'll tell Rebecca and Danielle and Charity, and yeah, them that how excited I am that I finally understand that.
A little late to the party, but it's
I'm a little late to the party. I'm a
late.
lot late to this party. So, welcome back to the second half of this fourth episode of Who Virgin. We're done talking about Doctor Who, so we're going to talk about movies, we're going to talk about TV, we're going to talk about other geek news. Let's start with the movies, and we're going to have a very special feature here. We're introducing our first ever sponsor to the podcast. So I'd like to thank our sponsor for bringing us talking about movies, and that sponsor is going to karaoke on Friday night with my friend Sarah. If you would like to go to karaoke with me on Friday nights, you can join me and let me know, and you can also sponsor the podcast. Just drop me a line at citizenbot@bigshinyrobot.com, and we can record a commercial for you, or you can just come to karaoke with me. Otherwise, yay karaoke. Yay, fake ads.
You know what?
Oh,
The first song should be "What a Fool
what?
Believes."
What?
What a Fool Believes.
What a
That
fool.
should be,
Oh my
that should be
gosh.
the first karaoke song covered.
I would. Yeah, I will always take a karaoke dare. We'll see, because I have some friends coming into
That
town
would be so
this
awesome.
weekend, and I will take any dare. I got dared on this last Friday to do my most hated song ever, which is "My Heart Will Go On" by Celine Dion,
Oh
and I
God.
still did it, and I rocked the hell out of it, because I hate that song so much. I just pour all the cheese into it, and it's so beautiful.
I have
Um,
to witness this one of these days.
if I Could Turn Back Time by Cher, that is an awful song, and
I
I
actually like it, but you have to dress like Cher.
oh no, especially not in that video. Not Cher, not dressing like Cher in that video. I could dress like Cher from like the '70s, maybe. I don't think anybody wants to see me dress like Cher from the "If I
No,
Could
but it
Turn
would be
Back Time" video.
hilarious. It would be hilarious.
It would no. I think it would be gross, and everyone would lose their lunch. So let's talk about movies. You and I both ended up seeing the same movie this week, and we were a little bit late to it, but we saw the Divergent series, Insurgent. Yeah, you already heard what I thought about it, but I haven't heard what you thought about it. So
I actually liked it quite a bit. I liked it better than Divergent.
yeah,
I thought they developed the characters a little better. I really like Triss's character, how strong she is. There's a couple of things that I didn't like. The betrayal of Caleb. I don't think was played to any effect at all. It just came off as like, hey, I betrayed you. Yeah, I know.
Yeah,
Uh,
I'm a dick.
yeah,
Get
I
used to
didn't
it.
like that. Miles Teller still is underwhelming. I did not like him in the first film, and the second film, he's
It's not my
marginally better.
tempo. Not my
Yeah,
tempo.
it's he did marginally better than the first film. The
He
one
did.
person I can't stand though, and I'm so glad he's done with the series, is Jai Courtney.
Hmm.
I can't stand him. His whole like, oh, I'm an angry badass, and I'm gonna give you this face. They never seen, look at me. I'm glad he got shot in the face. We're done with
Me
him.
too. That
Yeah,
was my favorite moment in the entire
yeah.
movie. I'm like,
I
yeah,
felt like clapping.
kill
I'm
that
like,
effer.
yes, it's
Kill him.
done.
Yeah,
And,
good.
and if you've read the books, which I have, and I found them entertaining until the last one, which just pissed me off. I do like the change they did at the end of the movie in Insurgent. That being Naomi Watts' character Evelyn and what she does with Janine. That's not the way it happens in the book, and I actually liked it. Other than that, Theo James continues to be awesome in my book. He's turning in some
That
good
guy.
work in those two movies. And like I said, Trish's character is just it's getting better. Uh, and I actually like this movie better than the Hunger Game movies. And I know that people are going to kill me
Oh,
for that, but the Hunger Game movies, A, have been boring me, and B, they've been doing nothing with the characters really. Um, what's her name from Hunger Games? I keep. This is how much I care about those movies now. Jennifer Lawrence's character. All she ever does is like, oh, weepy
Katniss
cry, cry,
Everdeen.
and oh, you've pissed me off. I'm angry now, and then I'm crying again. I'm like, Jesus Christ. They could have done something with that character. The first Hunger Games movie really moved me. Really liked it. Jennifer Lawrence was, she brought her A game, and I've said that the moment I said this person's a real actor was when she's saying goodbye to Senna and she's being moved up the elevator thingy. The look of abject horror on her face, the way she emoted it was so great, and I
Yeah,
expected so much more from her afterwards. But the following two sequels have just been horrible. They're boring, and there's no development of character at all. But Triss's character actually is developing very well. You can see her inner strength, and she's angry for the right reasons. She takes action for the right reasons. So Insurgent to me was very, very good. Liked it much better than the Hunger Games, and I can't wait to see how they wrap this all up.
yeah. I will disagree with you about the Hunger Games because I really liked Mockingjay. But I think that's also because this is Mockingjay was what I was waiting for the whole time.
Okay.
So, like I actually want to see them take on this society, and I want to see some action. I really liked the interplay between Katniss and the rebel group, and how she isn't comfortable being used as a piece of propaganda, and that inner struggle between her and Philip Seymour Hoffman and oh, what's her name, Marjorie Tyrell from
Right.
from Game of Thrones.
Game of Thrones.
Yeah, and Julianne Moore. I really liked how all of that worked together because I thought that said something about our society and about propaganda and the nature of information and propaganda. But all that being said, I also liked Insurgent. I liked it a lot more than I liked Divergent, which I didn't get. Like I spent the whole movie basically feeling like, okay, yes, you feel like you're an outsider, so you have to go be a badass. And that's the message that I'm taking away from this. And I didn't get the whole caste system and the factions and how that all worked, even though they spent a lot of time explaining it. It just never clicked for me. So my biggest problem with Insurgent was I spent the whole movie really wishing I'd paid better attention to Divergent. But so I'm like, I'm gonna go rewatch Divergent then I'm gonna go rewatch Insurgent because I really enjoyed it, and I think it stands well alone. I definitely agree on the character development and Triss, and even though it I don't want to call the Divergent series the poor man's Hunger Games because like let's be real. Maze Runner is the poor man's Hunger Games, and
Yes.
Divergent is kind of its own thing. It's similar, but it, only in that it's dystopian YA fiction, um, which there seems to be a lot of these days. So I think that's interesting, and what that says about our young adults and about the adult audiences that are watching it, that everything feels very dystopian. But I really liked it. I would, if I were rating it out of 10, I'd give it a 6 out of 10. Like, definitely go see it, but I don't think it's the most amazing thing I've ever seen.
Yeah, I
Um,
give it a 7 out of 10. I thought a couple more changes could have made it much better. If the brothers' betrayal would have been played up
mhm.
and given much more emotion than what they did, other than that, hey, I'm your brother, I'm a dick, I kind of betrayed you, so get over it. If they would have added more punch to that, the the film would have had more weight, and I would have rated it higher.
I also have a harder time going back and forth with Shailene Woodley and Ansel Elgort, but because
Uh,
I
Fault in
saw
Our Stars.
Divergent, then I saw Fault in Our Stars, and then I saw Insurgent, and I'm like, oh, okay, let's. I'm enough of these two. This isn't. I don't know. This isn't the 1950s. We don't have to always have the same two people in every
Right.
movie. Like, let's break that. I think that's unfortunate, but oh well. And which is really funny because I won't lie, I really liked The Fault in Our Stars, and I was
No, I do
bawling like
too.
a baby at it. So
No, I do too. I thought that was a good movie.
yeah,
The problem with Divergent though, and I disagree that they did a good job of telling you the different factions. For me, that's where they failed. There wasn't enough exposition as to what the factions were or what they meant. It was all too quick. It was all like, hey,
mhm.
here are the factions, and now we're going to choose, and now I'm not going to. I'm a divergent, and now I'm going to choose something other than what my parents want, and now we're here. It was all way too fast. Things were happening too fast.
Yeah,
There wasn't enough being told about it. And I think Insurgent did a good job of slowing things down a bit and showing us the factions for what they were. And I like that whole bit about um, the whole caste system, which is what we're slowly becoming, sort of as a country, where you're poor, you're gonna stay poor, and don't even think you're gonna get wealthy, or don't even think you're gonna move up socially, because you need to know your place. Cities are becoming heavily stratified. I know, like here in San Antonio, we have the south side is for a certain group of people, the west
yeah,
side's for a certain group, east side's for north side's for the well-to-do, and even with
yeah,
the well-to-do, there's different sections of how well-to-do you are, and
exactly.
there's yeah, and we're not slowly becoming that, we're quickly becoming that.
Yeah,
And the point of the movie is like, we don't want this. We want to be able to move to do whatever we want. We want to be factionless.
yeah. Austin is the most economically segregated city in
Yes, it is.
America,
Yes,
and
it is.
and San Antonio, Houston, and Dallas are not far behind. It is. I mean, it's a problem with Texas in general, where we have these areas, and we are very quickly doing this, and we have a history of literal segregation where before the 1960s in Austin, if you were a white person, you lived on the west of I-35, and if you were a person of color, you lived on the east side, and you did not cross I-35. No way, no how. And that racial scar continues to
Right.
tear away at the city, and we're building our societies, and I think that's interesting. What I really liked what they did with Insurgent was the way it felt like they organically told the stories of the factions, like the time they spent with Candor,
Hmm.
and that was some of my other favorite I also really like Daniel Day Kim as an actor,
Yeah, he's cool.
and so I thought his part was very interesting, and they were able to deal with them. So speaking of that, we had a fun experiment earlier this week where after seeing Insurgent, I said, candor is always honest, and they apply this truth serum. So I'm going to spend 24 hours on Tuesday pretending like I've just taken the truth serum, and anyone can ask me anything, and I'll answer honestly. And Mark wins the award for being the only person to ask me a question where I dodged a little bit, and you were able to give me the Larry Wilmore Weak Tea
The weak
Award, which
tea.
was deserved. I'll agree it was a dodge, although I stand by my convictions. We won't tell you what the question was because again, we're trying to keep it a semi-PG podcast.
PG,
But
yeah.
um, but yeah, what I was most surprised by was how few of my friends wanted to uh, embarrass me. So, uh, my friends, geez, you guys suck. You gotta be willing to put it to me a little bit more. So they're all like, "Oh, you're already so real. We already know." And I'm like, "Oh, I'm not a mystery to anyone. I'm an open book."
In other words, they're saying you're boring. Jesus, what's up with that?
It's not that I'm boring. It's just that everything interesting about me, I'm already advertising to everyone. I've got a podcast, people. You can listen to it and go read me on my blog. Go check it out. But I'm all there. There's no mystery. So, uh,
Yeah, imagine what our judicial system would be like if there was a truth serum.
wow.
Wow. Like, well, first of all, no, just wow. You'd be admitting to stuff that you've been holding on to for years. Well, first of all, this whole Bill Cosby situation would be solved.
You see, I didn't I didn't intend to do anything bad. I was
I
just
was just
helping them.
trying to give us some jello pudding.
I just wanted to help these ladies with their careers, and oh, geez, poor Bill Cosby. That would be interesting. So, okay, let's each name one or two people who you would like to administer truth serum to, and and get the truth. Uh, the first person who comes. Well, you go ahead if you've got one.
I gotta go with Dick Cheney, man.
Dick Cheney, very good.
On live TV, get him to admit everything.
I would I would agree with that. I think that would be very interesting. Although here's the thing with Cheney is I think he believes the stuff that he says. So
I
I'm
don't think
not
so.
sure that
I think he
really.
has conviction in the things that he says, but he knows they're not true. And the truth serum would make him contradict himself. Right? He's got conviction. He knows he has to say what he has to say to get to do the things that he had to do. Like he had to come up with this ploy to convince the American people. He knows he had to do that. In his mind, he did the right thing. He'll never admit to it being wrong. I mean, just with the whole torture thing, the waterboarding,
Hmm.
he's got conviction that no, it isn't torture, even though people are being choked with water. Like,
Hmm.
and he'll never submit himself to that. But he's got these deep held convictions. It doesn't mean they're true, and the
Hmm.
truth serum would make him contradict himself. So I would have tons of fun putting him in the hot seat. But he would be my number one choice.
That'd be interesting. I would go with a double barrel, pardon the expression, of Darren Wilson and George Zimmerman. Um, I feel like we don't have the full story of what went on, and I don't know that we can believe the accounts that were given here. There's just too much that doesn't quite add up to me. Of course, I have my own personal feelings about these things, but I'd love the truth serum to be able to finally figure it out.
Uh, my
Anyone
second
else?
one, my second one would either be O.J. Simpson or Carly Simon. What is it, Carly Simon? That you're so vain person?
You're so vain.
Because
Yes.
like, all right, enough already. Just tell us. Because she's always saying, "Oh, it's somebody that I'm never gonna say who it is." Like, shut up and tell us. I don't even like your stupid song. Just tell me who it's about. Is it Warren Beatty? We all think it is.
It's Warren. It's definitely Warren Beatty.
It has to
It's
be.
got to be Warren Beatty.
But she never admits to it. She needs to shut up about it already. She, just say it.
Well, so it now. I thought I've got another one. I think Alanis. Although, did she already admit
Dave
that
Coulier?
You Ought to Know was definitely Dave Coulier? Okay. Okay.
Yeah.
So then we don't need truth serum on Alanis.
No, no.
Thanks, Alanis. Thanks for clearing that up. We all again we all suspected
we,
that's who it
we,
was.
we all knew.
So we all know. Cut it out.
Got it. At a movie theater, man. Come
Way to
on.
go, way to go, Uncle Joey. That's awesome. Get with the girl from You Can't Do That on Television. You're awesome. Way to go. All right. Anyone else? I think that's a pretty good truth serum list.
Yeah, I think that's it. Yeah.
Yeah. So, uh, cool. Well, let's move on to talking about TV. Our sponsorship, or our talking about TV, is brought to us by Mark's Breakfast. Mark, what did you have for breakfast?
Potato and egg tacos.
Wow. All right. That amazing breakfast brings you us talking about television. So thank you, potato
Potato and egg
breakfast tacos.
breakfast.
Uh, so let's let's talk about TV. I guess the biggest TV news uh, this week is X-Files and the the long rumored uh, the long rumored announcement that it would be coming back for just a few episodes, but we are going to get new X-Files. So
They said 6 episodes, right?
6 episodes. That's interesting. What do you think about that?
I think it has to do with one object or one event. I don't think we're going to get a multi-layered storyline.
Hmm.
I can't possibly think what it would be about. Invasion, maybe, or no, or maybe a Hydra-like situation where the secret organization has finally popped its ugly head and they have to figure out what it's about and how far-reaching this organization is. I don't know. It could be a whole lot of other things, but 6 episodes isn't enough to for me to come up with anything.
That's not a whole lot, but all I have to say is I hope it's better than the last movie, the one
Uh,
with Billy Connolly, which just felt like an average good episode of X-Files. It didn't feel like it needed to be a movie. It didn't feel like it needed to be a big thing. And so I hope that they actually have a story that they want to tell rather than, oh, let's just do this because it would be good to do this again.
Even the title of the movie was lame.
What was it?
I Want to Believe, or was it I Want to Believe, or something like that?
I don't remember.
I don't know. It was lame. And
Although the
speaking,
first X-Files movie, that was awesome.
that was pretty
I
good.
love that movie. That is a great movie. And I will also cop to not being the biggest X-Files fan. I have not seen every episode. I've seen most episodes. I've seen most of the episodes. I've seen almost all of the episodes regarding the like overall uh, alien conspiracy and so on and so forth. But I didn't start into X Files until the I want to say second or third season. So I missed quite a bit of the very beginning. So I haven't caught up with quite a few of them, but I love all the stuff with yeah, with the alien conspiracy. That was always my favorite, and there are a few of the standalone episodes that have always stuck with me. My favorite um, has always been the one with the Christmas ghosts with it's
Oh,
yeah, is that Ed Asner and Lily Tomlin?
Lily Tomlin. Yeah.
Yeah, that's a that's a great episode. It's kind of funny.
I'm getting called. Hold
It's
on.
okay.
Okay, have to give Motrin. All right,
Oh
so the
yeah.
Lily Tomlin episode.
Yeah, so uh let's see. Yeah, Lily Tomlin and Ed Asner as Christmas ghosts. I always thought that was really funny. I thought it was a great character building moment for Mulder and Scully and their relationship, and it's all self-contained, which was really nice because something like the X-Files, it's hard to say like here's your one entrance point into it. It always felt like, oh, I just can't jump in because I've missed so much. It's like, no, there are a couple of standalone episodes where you can jump in and just enjoy them for what they are.
I think my favorite episode was the Peter Boyle episode, where he
That's it.
tells Scully, "This is gonna end with you holding my hand and me in tears." And she's like, "Oh, whatever," and that ends up happening. But the way it and oh, it's heartbreaking, and it shows a side of Scully that hadn't been shown before, because
Yeah.
she really opens herself up. That was great television, great writing. It was one of the best episodes ever.
Clyde Bruckman's Final Repose. That's just that is such an amazing episode as well. I just I can't recommend that enough. There are a couple of other. I think the other episodes that always come to mind are uh, the ones with the very inbred family. I think people always think of that. The first episode of X Files that I ever remember watching all the way through, though, was Mulder and Scully on a ship, and they suddenly start rapidly aging, and they're there to try and figure out why this Russian tanker everybody died on it, and they're rapidly aging,
I
and
remember
they
that.
don't know what's going on, and it's really cool. They think they're gonna die, and then they end up not dying. So it again a nice self-contained episode that was as much about character as the giant conspiracies. So I hope they bring it back. I hope I hope there's more there. I hope they're able to bring in the Lone Gunman. 'Cause I always
Oh,
like. Did,
right.
did you ever see the Lone Gunman spinoff?
No, I never did, but I
No,
like the character.
I watched every episode of the Lone Gunman spinoff because those guys that just I don't know why. They were they were some of my favorite. I was like, oh, they showed up. Oh, the smoking guy showed up. Oh, Krychek's in this one. It's like whenever some of those guys showed up, those were my favorites. So yeah, we'll see what they'll bring us. Hopefully something good. I don't know.
Yeah, and since they're bringing back old shows, I really wish they would bring back Briscoe County Jr. God, I love that show.
Briscoe County Jr. Well,
That
they are going to make an Evil Dead series,
they are, yeah, but
and uh, he's going to be involved in them. Ash is going to be there, so it's not Briscoe County Jr.
it's not. But when I first saw Firefly, it reminded me a lot of Briscoe County Jr. It had the same kind of feel to it.
A little bit. It's kind of funny, kind of serious. It's there's a good blend of all of that.
Yeah.
Yeah, that would be a fun show to bring back for a couple of episodes, but I don't. Unfortunately, I think there's only a small contingent of people who
Right.
remember Briscoe County Jr. and remember it fondly. It's probably the same people who like remember The Tick, and
The Tick was awesome.
The Tick was awesome. I'm trying to think other like great cult classic shows. Oh, and then Firefly. Firefly's always the classic cult show. So yeah. So I did not watch much other TV this week because I already watched Agents of Shield. All the or not Agents of Shield. I didn't watch Agents of
You didn't
Shield
watch it, right?
because I was watching Doctor Who, and that was it, and got too busy with work and other things. So, apologize. We will get caught up with those later. Do we have
All right.
any other TV
No
news?
TV,
Any
but
other fun stuff?
we did get the trailer for Spectre,
We did.
and that is just the trailer alone is, oh my god, it's so beautiful. It's got so much in it, so much intrigue, and I think we're gonna get a deeper look into James Bond's past and how he may or may not tie in with a criminal organization. Um, I mean, there's just too much speculation based on the trailer itself. But I'm on board, man. I want this movie out yesterday so I can watch it.
Well, I was really impressed with it because the first thing that I saw was they were making some very specific homages to other things within the Bond universe. And I saw little bits of On Her Majesty's Secret Service, and especially that final reveal with Christoph Waltz sitting around the table in the dark. And it's like, this is right out of From Russia with Love.
Right.
And they know exactly what they're doing with this. They know exactly where they're going. They know exactly how they're the ground that they're treading on, and I hope that they are bringing the appropriate level of respect to this, because certainly the character of Blofeld and the Spectre organization were not treated with that same respect in many later Bond
Right.
films. Um, Last we saw Blofeld, he was dropped down a chimney by what movie was that in? It was one of the really terrible Roger Moore ones. That's
Mm.
how it opened. They just dropped him down a chimney. It was awful.
Oh, we have to have a discussion about all the Bonds when a Spectre comes out.
Oh,
'Cause, I actually have a special place in my heart for Roger Moore's James Bond. Because that was my James Bond. That's how I was introduced to James Bond. I didn't get to see uh,
Sean Connery.
the Sean Connery James Bond until much much later. And then I was like, Dad, why were you holding on to me all these years? But I still have that special place in my heart for the silliness of the Roger Moore era was what I liked the most. In retrospect, it may have been way too silly, like way 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 too silly, but I still enjoyed them. Uh,
It's got its place, but I think that you can balance the silliness in a way that makes it interesting. Like the perfect example for me is Goldeneye, which on its face, if you think about it, very silly. He's driving a tank through the streets of St. Petersburg. Xenia Onatopp strangles men while having sex with them with her hips. Like
yeah,
that is so ridiculous, but it's cheeky, and it doesn't need to like wink at the audience and have a racist redneck yokel police chief to be the commentator, like, hey, this is a funny part right now.
right,
And
right,
so
right.
I think you can bring in those funny elements, and a lot of that has been lacking from the Daniel Craig Bond, but I don't miss it. I I really like that they've been the way that they've been going with it. Um, you know, Brian Young, Swank Motron from Big Shiny Robot, and I, when um, when Skyfall came out, we watched every Bond movie in the
I
space of
remember
a
that.
month, and we reviewed all of them and went through the whole thing. And I came out of that whole thing saying that Skyfall was my favorite Bond movie.
I agree.
Uh, I I just that was such an amazing film. So I'm worried that Spectre is not going to live up to that, and I think Casino Royale is in my top five. So I'm really loving what they've been doing with Daniel Craig. and I really love the direction that they're taking. What concerns me is some of the stuff that happened with the Sony leak, and during the Sony hack and the leaks of some of these documents, there were emails that, first of all, they leaked a draft of the script for Spectre. So it's out there on the internet. I did not read it. Some people did, but there's a lot of back and forth between executives at Sony where they are worried about the final act and some of the action sequences and some of the things that they feel are out of place or rushed. Now, fingers crossed that they went through and did several more rewrites and they got the script done before they started shooting. Uh, the unfortunate thing is there was only about 6 weeks between when that script got leaked and they actually started shooting at Pinewood. So, I mean,
Well,
that could
I'm
be
not
enough
too worried
time to
about.
polish a script, but I don't know.
I'm not too worried about Sony being worried because they thought the Amazing Spider-Man deserved a sequel. So they, they obviously don't know what the hell they're doing. So I'm not too worried. Um, I agree with you about Skyfall. It is my favorite Bond movie now. It used to be Doctor No. Doctor No was my all-time favorite Bond movie. I just
Nice.
loved watching it. Still do. Whenever it comes on, I'll sit down and I'll watch it because I have to. Love that movie. But I think Skyfall bested them all. Just perfect pace, great narrative. The acting was, they turned it up to 11. The way we lost M, I mean, it was just perfect. Great, and that's my all time favorite now. And if anything, the same team coming back gives me confidence about Spectre. And now with this trailer that we just saw, I'm just so full of hope. I'm not sure it's going to be better than Skyfall, but I think if it's just as good, I'll be very, very, very happy.
Yeah. One thing we did not see in the Spectre trailer was Dave Bautista.
That's true.
And I keep forgetting that he's in this movie, but it sounds like he is going to be playing, one of these classic
Right.
Bond henchmen in just like Jaws or Odd Job
I was going to say
and
random task.
Random Task. This is my manservant, Random Task. A shoe? Who throws a bloody shoe? Yeah, yeah, so. Oh yeah, no. So I'm really he's the muscle, he's the enforcer, and I guess there was a lot of that in From Russia with Love too. Now why am I blanking on the that big blonde brute's name who almost kills him on the train? Um, but he's great, But that's a classic Bond henchman who Bond's got to find a way to dispatch and. Batista's just such an imposing guy
Right.
that I look forward to trying to see Daniel Craig like punch him in the stomach and like he's
And
just
nothing
gonna
happens.
smile.
Yeah.
So
I
that's
do
good.
think we're missing a Jaws type of character. I really loved Jaws. He was just such a kick-ass character. Uh, Maybe not something ramped up that campy, but somebody formidable. I think what we have so far is, when we were talking about this earlier, is Mr. White,
Hmm.
somebody who has bested him before. It's just a thorn on his side for the first three movies, and he's going to show up again because we saw him on the trailer. But I think we need somebody who's a lot more imposing.
And
Uh,
and he's got that great line too. What is
right.
it?
You're just a kite dancing in a hurricane. How beautiful is that? Oh God, that fills me with so much hope.
Yeah, that's gonna be that's gonna be really cool. So yeah, I'm interested in where they're going to take us, and I'm trying not to set my expectations too high, but I can't help but get excited that there's going to be more James Bond.
Yeah. I think we're in for something good. I think it's going to knock our socks off. I hope so. And I'm pretty sure we're going to get what we want. In Sam Mendes, I trust.
Yeah, he has not made a movie that I have disliked,
Right.
and there are other people who disagree with me, but I really loved Road to Perdition, and I really like American Beauty still. So, you know,
Road to
I'm gonna.
Perdition was great. There's people who hate that. Really? You're still
Yeah,
friends with them?
I don't know.
There's a scene where Tom Hanks is driving and his son is in the back, and he's just staring at the back of his dad's head. Uh, in any other movie, it would be unnecessary to even film that. But the way Sam Mendes set up the scene, there's so much emotion there. Like the kid's looking at the back of his head, like this person can't be my dad. Like who? What am I doing here? What's this life about? And the kids emoting that, and the way the scene is set and lit, just so great. It's stuff like that about Sam Mendes that make the movies work.
Well, and
And Road to Perdition to me was fantastic.
that the fight scene
Yeah,
in the skyscraper in China
and
just blows me away visually every time I see that. It is just
the
so
lighting behind oh, so great. Yeah,
it's it's so great, and I just it's so amazing, and he does that several times in the movie where everything is so beautifully shot from the from the casino in Macau to uh, to the island where Javier Bardem is hiding. It's these places that he takes you. It it's so amazing, and it is a visual journey into places that obviously exist that we don't know about. And it's so cool because we rarely get to see that outside of a science fiction or fantasy movie.
and if you compare scenes, let's talk about the you brought up the fight in China, right?
Hmm.
There's so much tension going on. You compare it to the opening of Quantum of Solace, where he's running on top of the train and he gets shot and that's it. There's no real tension in that action sequence. No, was it?
No, that's the beginning of Skyfall.
No, yeah. Okay, then I just contradicted myself
Yeah,
because
no, because I'm like, you're
that
totally
part,
wrong. That was
yeah,
fun.
because that part I thought could have been built up a bit more, and I
That
wasn't too happy with that. So I
that to
just
me
contradicted
felt like
myself.
that to me felt like see, I felt like Skyfall went it kept ratcheting things up, and that scene on top of the train felt to me like classic Bond opening action sequence material.
Yeah, well,
It's kind of hijinky. It's kind of well, oh, look what he's doing. He's got a crane and he's going to use that to grab onto the train, and oh, he's gonna drive a car from what it's almost silly, and yeah, the stakes aren't there, but it's just mindless blowing stuff
yeah,
up.
I like that. He gets shot at the end, but there's that whole sequence where he's just running, 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 and I thought it could have been tighter.
Hmm.
I guess,
Yeah,
but you know
I
what?
agree.
That's just splitting hairs,
There's
and
also there are
I
also other
contradicted myself badly
sequences. Yeah, there's also sequences like that in other movies that I think were done better that are kind of like parkour on roofs, sort of things. There's a movie, The International, with Clive Owen. Um, is it Taken 2, I think? There's one where
there. When
he's
they're in Turkey,
he's yeah, in Turkey on the rooftops, and he's like riding a motorbike on the roof. And one of the Bourne movies, um,
yes,
where yeah, there's a lot of other stuff where they're doing that same kind of things, and I think it's done better. So I can agree with you on that.
yeah. I don't want to see a scene and say to myself, I've seen this before. Like,
Yeah.
let's change it up. Whereas the fight scene in China, that was just awesome because I hadn't seen anything like that. The lighting effect, the close quarter fighting. Um, what's her name standing from the opposite side of the building looking into the action that's happening.
Mhm.
That was just so great. And I guess that the whole train scene thing, I'm not saying it's bad. I'm just saying that it didn't have the same amount of tension as the China fight scene.
You're right.
Yeah.
You're absolutely right. Which is why I think it was and I almost want to say that that was intentional. And for me, it was part of the journey where it's like, oh, I get a kind of mindless action sequence, then I get the Bond opening with Adele singing in the background. then Bond is gone, and there's like this rebirth sort of thing, and he has to come back, and MI5 gets blown up, and there's he has to go through the retraining, and then he gets dispatched on these missions even though he's not ready. And at that point, he's doing all of these he's doing all this stuff uh, to keep moving on and keep moving out, and they're in moving the story forward, and it keeps ratcheting up from there. So it's like it starts at like a 2 or a 3, and then we're at 10 by the
Right.
end. So
And I think part of my problem is that I got spoiled with Casino Royale's opening when he got his double O.
uh,
That to me when he's in the bathroom and he breaks some guy's face on a urinal.
yeah,
How sloppy that was. That to me was just such a great opening for a Bond movie,
yeah,
and I didn't get that with the other two.
yeah. Well, that's definitely true, and I think that in that they had to show, Bond is back, and but it's a different kind of James Bond,
Right.
and it is sloppy and it is hard, and then he's like, yeah, but the second one's easier, and so it really signaled to me that we were in for a different kind of Bond movie, and in the sense that it was a good Bond movie, because I think, as I've mentioned, Die Another Day is my most hated James Bond.
No way.
I hate that movie so much. So anyway, but yeah, I'm excited for Bond, and I'm sure we will probably need to have like an entire James Bond episode, when either right before or right after Skyfall, and maybe have Brian on, maybe have some other people on where we can
Yeah, that'll be
we can
fun.
talk we can
That'll
talk
be fun.
Bond like
I hope we
really
get to see.
intensively.
I hope we get to see more Jeffrey Wright. I hope he becomes well. It kind of is the de facto American counterpart, right?
Yeah,
But we haven't seen too much of him. I hope we get to see more of him.
I hope we get to see more of him too, especially since like Felix shows up in so many of the other movies like as a character, and like I didn't even notice until like I went back and
So,
rewatched a bunch of them, and I'm like, oh, that's supposed to be Felix, and until he got fed to a shark in one of the, and I'm like, what? No, they they killed him. I mean, why is there no more? Yeah, but I love Jeffrey Wright. I think he's great. It would be great if he's showing up more often. Not because the American cavalry needs to show up, but
no.
because
It's just that's a good character, and I
yeah,
love me some Jeffrey Wright.
yeah, but because the American cavalry has to show up and sometimes be outclassed, which is what was often happening. So it was great. Yeah, so I think that about does or about wraps up this episode for us. So thanks, Mark, for being here,
Cool.
and thanks to all of you who patiently listened to us as we talked about Doctor Who and everything else that's going on this fourth episode of Who Virgin. And special thanks to Big Shiny Robot, as always, especially Tom Winkley for hosting our podcast, which you can find the website at whovirgin.com. You can connect with us there on Twitter at whovirgin, and listen as I live tweet my. Okay, sorry, my phone ringing in the background. I'm going to start that over. That's just so annoying. I need to find a way to silence that ringer. Okay. So thanks for joining us for this episode of Who Virgin. Thanks as always to Mark and to Big Shiny Robot, especially Thomas Winkley, for hosting our podcast website at whovirgin.com. You can connect with us there or on Twitter or on Tumblr at whovirgin, and watch as I live tweet my binge watching this week, which will hopefully be the next 4 or 5 episodes. I'm going to try and make it to the Dalek episode this week. We'll see if I get there. So follow along and watch, and join us next week as we discuss everything in those episodes, and hopefully Daleks in Salt Lake City. And we'll see you next time. And that's over.
We need a special shout out to Potato and Egg Breakfast